So recently I decided to check out Ranger Reject from the creator of Quintessential Quintuplets, Negi Haruba. I want to give you guys really my first impressions on what I think about this series, at least based off the first 4 chapters of the manga. If you guys want to see a full impressions of the first like 30 or so chapters, be sure to leave a like on this video and comment down below if you want it. With that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. This is a series I've been actually looking forward to a lot, just because of his relation to Quintessential Quintuplets, which I am a huge fan of. I love the Quintessential Quintuplets. I thought it was a very cute and endearing series. So this is his new series, and when I first heard about this series, that it wouldn't be a rom-com or a harem or anything to do with quintuplets, I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. I was even more interested to find out that it's focused around like basically Rangers or Sentai or the kind of like Power Rangers. And I initially going into this was like, this is really weird. I'm not sure how to feel about this because I'm not really a big fan of Power Rangers these days. I'm not a kid. I mean, I have fond memories of it, but that's the expectation I had with something like Power Rangers. So going into it, actually quite interesting. For chapter 1, I can tell you right now that I didn't really get a good feel of the series. I mean, I liked a lot of things about it. I liked that the villains were these underdogs. I thought the art was amazing, although that's to be expected because Negi Haruba has a really tremendous art style that is beautiful. So overall, with chapter 1, there wasn't too much there, but it was a good foundation for the next 2 chapters. So chapter 2 is called The Hunt for Red Keeper, which I thought was a pretty good play on the hunt for Red October. We learned in chapter 1 that these villains are immortal. The way they get around this, the Rangers and the heroes, so to speak, is they use divine tools. Using divine tools will kill the villains. For the most part, I don't think they have actually given the main character a name quite yet. I think he's just a foot soldier, but they call them all Foot Soldier A, Foot Soldier B, all the way to whatever it may be. That rhymed. In this chapter, we learn that the main character is undercover. He can take on the form of anyone. I think that was briefly brought up in chapter 1, but in this chapter, we can see that this foot soldier can change his form because he changes his form later on into that of Hibiki Sakurama, which most of chapter 2 is really introducing these 2 characters, Hibiki Sakurama and Yumiko Suzukiri. What is really cool about these 2 characters is that they're the polar opposite of one another. Suzukiri is sadistic. It's obvious the reason why she's sadistic. It's because, you know, for her character, I think people probably find a very attractive woman being as sadistic as she is to be kind of a turn on, so I think that's why her character is that way. But she actually ends up siding, well, technically it's the foot soldier in this chapter that ends up siding with Yumeko. She feels really bad for the foot soldiers and the villains. So the way she describes it is that she watches a lot of dramas. She doesn't find it interesting when the hero wins all the time, but as well, she kind of wants to see the heroes be taken down along with the Dragon Keepers, which I find her stance on that really interesting. It doesn't work unless you have Hibiki Sakurama, who is the complete opposite. Hibiki Sakurama wants to unite everyone. He wants them all to basically make peace with one another, because if you think about it from his perspective, there's really no reason for this war to continue. And keep in mind, this war is all some made-up war. It's not an actual real war that the villains are fighting. It's really just something that these Dragon Keepers and these heroes have all made up. Now, the Rangers, obviously, they don't kind of know this, so to them they're just doing their job. Very interesting, because at the end of these chapters he has to decide, he has to pick between, do I pick the sadistic Yumeko, who probably fits more in line with my personality, or do I pick Sakurama, who doesn't fit my personality and doesn't see my side in it? It's very interesting, and I think while at the end of chapter 3 he picks Yumeko, which I think is a good choice to start off, because like I said, he relates the most to Yumeko right now. I think it's going to be pretty cool to see him take on more traits of Sakurama, possibly the more they work together and the more Sakurama has influence over them, and vice versa, to a point where he's the in-between. He has traits from both Yumeko and he has traits from both Hibiki. I think that is what's going to make this series interesting. And I don't know if that's the route they're going down, by the way. I don't know if he's going to be like in the middle of these two. I do think that it's going to happen, but it's probably not going to be the main thing about his character. Starting out with Yumeko is pretty great because, man, let me tell you, guys, Jesus Christ. I don't think I've seen such an attractive anime girl in my life. Yumeko is smoking. She's a smoke show. She's really interesting, though. I like throughout these chapters, she figures out the foot soldier's identity, cuts his head off, because as we know, villains, they don't die unless there's divine weapons. That's the trade-off, is they may be weak, but they don't die unless you have a divine weapon or a divine tool. But she's pretty much just practically cutting off his head left and right. And I love his reaction to Yumeko. It's really just, I'm going to kill you one day. I'm going to take you down. I don't like you at all. One bit. You're a terrible person. Stop cutting my head off, lady. I guess we should also bring up, since it's Negi Haruba, will this have a romance in it? Will there be a romance between Sakurama and Yumeko? Or will Yumeko romance the foot soldier? Or will there be any other characters that are introduced throughout the series? That is a great question. My first thoughts are that I don't know. I don't really have a kind of grip on what he wants to do with this series, but I will say that it is a possibility, I think. Would I want to see it personally? To be honest, it wouldn't harm my enjoyment of it. I just don't know the characters enough at this point to know if that is in, the capacity of these characters to do that, but that is what it is. Let's see if we got some other notes. Oh, yeah. We gotta talk about the other characters. Red Third Class Shun Tokida. This guy he's cocky. He kind of looks like an 80s punk or something like that of this universe. He has this really weird face paint thing going on. He's very he shoots one of the villains and he's like, wow, nice headshot. And it's like, wow, this guy's kind of sadistic, much like Yumeko. He's kind of an asshole, actually. He's kind of a dick to the foot soldier who's acting as Sakurama. So it seems those two don't really get along. Also, as well, Sosei Akabane, who is one of the Dragon Keepers. He's the Red Keeper. He used his divine tool in this episode, as I turn the page here. It is called Red Dragon Salamadora. It's a sword. It looks really cool. And by the way, Red Dragon Keeper, dude, I want this to get an anime already, just so I can see Red Dragon Keeper animated. And I hope JC Staff doesn't get it, because I can tell from this manga art that this would be a really cool series to see animated, just for the character designs themselves and just some of the cool things you'd see. This divine tool looks really cool. It's just a sword, and at the end of this chapter, chapter 3, one of the foot soldiers gets killed, which leads to the foot soldier joining Yumeko. Red Keeper essentially, as well, is the face of the Rangers. He's the face of a brand in many ways. He is the forward-facing person, and many people are like, hey, is this normal for one of the Rangers to show off their true identity? And they explained to him that, yeah, it's fine, because for him, at the very least, he is the face of the brand. So, but otherwise, these first 3 chapters were pretty good. The first chapter didn't actually start to make sense for me until actually chapter 3. Put down in the comments below what you thought about these first 3 chapters of Ranger Reject. If you're not a Discord member or on Patreon or a channel member and you're watching this, then consider doing one of those things by becoming a patron, becoming a channel member, or just joining the Discord. That's pretty much free. So with that out of the way, let's get right into Ranger Reject Chapter 4, Immortal Hitman. First of all, I just gotta say, art in this chapter, pretty funny at certain instances. This one point where D, which I think that is his name, which I've just realized they really haven't introduced a name for a lot of these characters. Well, they have for a lot of them, but for the foot soldiers, they're just like letters of the alphabet, which is not real names. So hopefully in the future, we get to see these characters have actual names. So it starts out Sakurama, well, basically as Sakurama, D is whistleblowing, basically that everything is a lie. So this is going to be a major plot point, hopefully coming up in the future. I have a feeling that with the whistleblowing, I don't know if it will do much, because as of right now, the press probably really believe in the Dragon Keepers, all of that. So I don't know if anything's going to come from that where we're going to see significant change, but I do think it is going to be an important plot element, just because for the simple fact that the information is out there. And apparently Yumeko put him up to it, so this was Yumeko's plan. We saw in the last chapter, he joined Yumeko's side, which is a very interesting choice. Although they seem to align on at least attitudes and trains of thought, it seems that you know, personality-wise, maybe not so much. Maybe they don't like each other. I know he doesn't like Yumiko. He calls her a bitch at one point in this chapter, which, you know, to be honest, I don't get the sense that Yumiko's a bitch. So I don't know why he would call her that. That's just me. An interesting thing, though, in this chapter is every foot soldier has a strength and a weakness. They go over this specifically, which I thought was really nice. So I think we're going to see more foot soldiers in the future, and I think many of them are going to have different quirks that make them unique. So for example, D's strength is mimicking humans, and because of that, he's very good at going undercover, so he's going to, in this chapter, go over to Red Garrison undercover, which is, as we'll see, not as easy as he thought it was going to be. But then we learn about, finally, once and for all, like laying down all the facts about the divine tools from Yumiko. There are 5 in total. They were invented during the war with the invaders, and they are used as transformation items solely by the Dragon Keepers. So it seems that if you're not a Dragon Keeper, you can't use them. But I wonder if that is going to be the case. Are we going to see D in the next chapter use it? Because as we see at the very end, he's confronted by a Dragon Keeper. Well, I mean, so, okay. So as we know, the divine tools are able to kill invaders, but I wonder what happens. Can a divine tool that doesn't have any divine power being used, can that still injure a Dragon Keeper? Because Dragon Keepers at the end of the day seem to be just kind of regular human beings, as was evident by Tokita, I think is his name, saying that, you know, we humans die and stuff like that. So maybe the Dragon Keepers are humans and you don't really need the divine powers within the divine tools to actually do damage to the Dragon Keepers. I don't know, they haven't really set any of that up yet, so we'll have to see. So their plan is to get the divine tools. They come across a plan that, since during the Sunday battles they leave the divine tools to do the Sunday battles with the fake divine tools, that they'll just take it during the Sunday battle, which is a very good plan. So he's now in the facility, he's in Red Garrison. This is the scene where he calls Yumiko a bitch, which I'm just out of nowhere. There's a guy that comes up to him and he's like, yo, where's the bathroom? And he basically tells a guy that there's no point in using the bathroom? That's an interesting angle to go about all that, but okay. So he runs into Tokita. Tokita's kind of a psychopath, let's be real here. He goes to the divine tool, and the divine tool is in a golf bag. You can't make that up. You can't make that up. So Tokita shows up, blows off his face. I think he's mimicking Red Keeper. So D is freaking out like, hey, I could have been Red Keeper. Why did you do that? And Tokita says that he smells different. Oh, there you go. Apparently he's a very good smeller. But D uses explosives to get Tokita to stop, and in the distraction, takes out a golf club and just knocks out Tokita. And so D escapes with the divine tool, but is met by a Dragon Keeper to end the chapter. So in my opinion, in the next chapter, what we're going to see is we're going to see something really strange happen. I think we're going to see Sakurama, because in this chapter we saw a lot of Yumiko. Maybe we'll see Yumiko as well, because as we've seen in one of the last scenes of this chapter, Yumiko says she's got to go and do something. So maybe it has something to do with heading over to his position and saving him because she knows about the Dragon Keeper going there. I don't know what it could be, but the Dragon Keeper doesn't look like he's very happy to see a foot soldier with the divine tool that he has. So it's going to be pretty cool, whatever is going to happen in the next chapter. I really enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was really nice. I thought it was really short, to the point. So far, I'm really enjoying Ranger Rejects. So please put down in the comments below what you think about it. Of course, drop a like, all of that great nonsense. While we wait for next week's video, check out my one on She's Hopeless. Pretty good, I promise. Check it out.